Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today's video is going to be kind of an instructional sort of a video. I'm going to be bringing the camera closer when I do the eye look so that you can see a little bit better, because I feel like most of the time the camera's like 1,000 miles away and I'm like so rude. I'm like off the screen. We're not going to do that today. We're going to get up close and personal, and I am going to be showing you how to place depth on your lid. I already have a video up on my channel where I discuss how I approach doing my eyeshadow, and I did talk about this a little bit in that video, but I feel like this is something that I should probably go just a little bit more in depth with, because I feel like this is something that not everybody necessarily understands right away. Like, it's not an intuitive thing for most people, and it wasn't intuitive for me when I first started. Like, the way that I was placing shadows was not really right when I first started, so there was definitely a learning curve, and I had to learn how to flatter my eye shape. I am going to be showing basically just one type of look. There are other things that you can do, but I'm going to show you how I think placing shadows is the most flattering for the eye and making the eyes look bigger, and, you know, making the lashes look longer, because placing shadow does kind of give the impression that your lashes are a bit longer if you focus it on the outer corner. We'll get there, we'll talk about it. Let's pull in closer. Actually, before we do, I want to introduce you to the palette. This is the Cor-de-rosa palette from Sigma, and this is a beautiful eyeshadow palette that I got 150 million years ago and still have not used. This is the color story. I wanted to pick a palette that had a decent range. Let me just remove this. This is what the palette looks like. It has some deep colors, it has some mid-range colors, and it has some lighter colors. What I'm gonna do today also is I'm gonna show you one eye look on one side that is neutral and one eye look that is more colorful, so that you can see how depth works for both. Okay, so we're nice and close up now. I hope I'm not like overexposed from the light being closer, but I just want you to be able to see everything, so it's nice and bright. So the reason that I picked this palette obviously is because of the range and the fact that it has a decent range in both the neutral tones and the colorful tones. So let's get into it. I'm gonna actually probably mostly use this little brush that came with the palette. Let me start on this eye with the neutral look, and then I'll do the more colorful look over here. I'm gonna start with Barefoot, which is the deepest kind of brown neutral shade in the palette, and I'm gonna take the fluffy end of this brush. It's like a fluffy kind of blendy side and then like a packing side. I'm gonna start with this. Now, with a deep shade like this, if you don't want your eye look to be super deep, I would say probably don't start with your deepest shadow, because when a deep shadow goes right onto the base, it's gonna stick more. But if you're building it up over another shadow, it's gonna kind of blend with that shadow more, and it's gonna be a bit lighter. So I want depth, so I'm taking this along the outer corner and kind of making like this V shape and taking it into my crease a little. I don't want to take it too far though. I'm just going to kind of bring it here. Oof, it's very pigmented. This is my first time using this, like I said, so I'm not super familiar with, actually I'm not at all familiar with the Sigma formula. Ooh, I feel like I can just blend this out on its own though. It's really nice. Not all deep shades can just be blended out on their own. Okay, I do want to go in with a lighter shadow though to blend it out. I'm gonna take this shade Medallion, and I'm just gonna take it up here and through the crease up to like, not all the way, just like 2/3 of the way across the crease. I'm gonna do this. Whew, these are so frickin' pigmented. By the way, I'm going to talk about what's on my lips and the rest of my face at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so you want your depth out here, right? And in the crease, you want something a little, you know, lighter, softer. But it is good to have that depth tight to the crease. Basically, wherever there is going to be darkness naturally, you just want to accentuate that. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And then I'm using the lighter shade to kind of blend that out. I'm definitely getting smoky here. Taking it pretty high. Okay. That is super dark, don't you think? So this is a pretty smoky look so far. I'm gonna take this side of the brush. I'm gonna take Veranda, and I'm just gonna take it right up here. I'm gonna pack on a little bit to soften this. And then I'm gonna just use the same end of the brush to blend that out into my natural skin tone. Take a little bit more out here. So we're creating the shape, keeping it up, blending it up farther on this side, creates that lifting effect, and keeping it lighter on the inner part of the eye. It gives you this very lifted. I hope that you can see, just looking at me straight on, the difference between this eye and this eye. I look like I have bags under my eyes, ignore that. But I hope that you can see the way that that lifts it. I'm gonna take a little bit more of Veranda, the lighter shade. I'm just gonna bring it here. I just wanna soften this because it's got a little bit deeper than I wanted. Ooh, that's so nice. We're gonna start to talk about shimmer and brightening up. But this is a good lesson here because I hate to have a lot of depth in this area most of the time because it feels like it makes my eyes smaller. So I'm just kind of brightening up there. Ooh, look at that, so nice. I think that before we go in with shimmers, I kind of want to take this shade here called Apricot and just kind of put it on my lid. I'm going to take this packing brush, take Apricot. I'm just going to start putting it down because this is a really pretty light mid-tone shade. I don't know, would you consider this mid-tone? It's definitely more on the light side. But I just want to, before I start getting into the shimmers, show you with mattes how you create like different depths on the eye. Now let's look at these in the pan. This was our deepest shade and it created that very smoky, sultry outer eye depth, right? Then this was our more mid-tone shade. We kind of blended that out a bit, brought it a little bit farther, gave some depth to the crease without making it too crazy smoky. And then we took this one to brighten up under the eyebrow, a little bit in here, and then this kind of light mid-tone shade on the lid. And we're just creating this shape. I think it might be a good idea to stick with the mattes for a minute and just, I'm gonna go in with Veranda, which is the lighter matte, the lightest matte, and I'm gonna put some on my inner corner because it's super flattering to have a nice light shadow on the inner corner of your eye. And I like to even just drag it in a little bit. I like to brighten up the inner part of my eye as much as possible. So from the outer corner to the inner corner, you can see how that depth dissipates into this bright inner corner shade. And look at how it makes my eye just kind of lifted. Okay, so now we have a range of depth on the lid and we have created a shape. Now let's go in with some shimmer and add some dimension. I think I want to take this gorgeous gold here and place it all over my lid. Hopefully it will go over the matte shadow nicely. Ooh, it's a little crumbly. I'm just gonna place it here. Wow. Now the reason that I picked this shade to go on the center lid is because it is a bright, poppy, shiny shade. It's always nice to use a bright shade on the center of the lid to kind of give it that pop. So we have the depth out here, a little bit of depth through the crease so that when the eyes open, those shadows make sense. And then that pop of shine on the lid. But that pop of shine is still pretty mid-toned. Like that's basically the same in terms of depth. That shimmer is just about the same as this, what I'm describing as like a light mid-toned matte. This is basically a mid-toned shimmer. I just want to finish off this side with this blinding bright shimmer, and I'm going to bring that to the inner corner of the eye because the inner corner is where we want the brightest shadow to be. We want to really brighten up the inner corner. And I always like to have a nice shimmery shade on my inner corner because I feel like it just gives the nicest like kind of doe-eyed look. And just like with the matte, I'm kind of pulling it in a little. Sticking with these same principles of that gradient, I want to do my under eye using this E15 from Sigma. And this is like just a really flat liner brush. I'm going to take Bare Root. Did I say the name of that one before? I don't remember it being called Bare Root. I'm just taking it out here, the very far outer part of the lower lash line there, and meeting up with the darker shade on top. Now, the rest of the way across, I'm gonna go in with Medallion, which is the more mid-tone shade. Just gonna take it like this. And then I think I'll take Veranda, actually, on this part here to finish it off. And then this will be the neutral eye. Okay, so what do you think of that? It was pretty simple, right? Pretty self-explanatory. And I think it's easy enough to see. Let me do a little bit of blending on that outer corner because that looks a little funky. I feel like it's easy enough to see how neutral shadows create that range of depth and sort of decide the shape of the eye. But now let's get into the more colorful shadows on the other eye, shall we? Okay, so starting with the deepest colorful shade that we have here, Shakespeare, I'm just gonna do the same thing and I'm gonna do the outer part of the lid, the outer corner of the lid. This is such a gorgeous shade, oh my gosh. And I'll bring it in a little bit this way, just kind of creating that V shape. Oh, something to note. You want to put your brush down where you want the shade to be the most impactful. If you saw there, I knew I needed to take it in more, but rather than taking the brush and just packing it on where I felt I needed it, I packed it on out here and then dragged it in, because that gives me more control over how dark it gets. And also, as I'm going in, I'm going lighter. Very, very light with the brush. Like barely touching the skin. Just a few little fibers of the brush. Now we're gonna go in with this shade here called Damask or something. I don't know how you pronounce this, but I'm gonna take that just a little bit higher, just like we did with the brown on this side. I'm gonna go gently. I don't wanna overdo it, but just, you know, above the crease here and blending it up. Colored shadows can be a little bit more tricky when it comes to actually blending them out and everything. These are beautiful colors. These are my kinds of colors. I love this. Okay. And I always want to put the brush down where I want the most impact and then drag the shadow out from there. What do we think of this so far? So as you see, we are sticking with the same principles. We're keeping it dark in the outer corner, blending it out with a lighter shade. This time I'm gonna go in with Hybrid. Now this one is not as light as Verona, so this side might end up looking a little bit more crazy and intense, but I'm gonna use the sort of packing side again. I'm gonna take some Hybrid, and then I don't wanna go too high with it. Let's put it like here. I'm just gonna pack some on and then blend it. Blending it upwards to the brow, creating this gradient. Look at that. That line looks so harsh on camera, but in person it's like not like that at all. I don't know why the camera always picks things up that way. It drives me crazy. Just adding more right under the brow on this outer part, because we want it to go whoosh like that on the outer part of the eye to lift the eye and also give that impression of like shadow from long lashes, right? So there's that. I think I might take that shade. I don't necessarily know that I want to take that shade on the inner corner like I took the matte on the inner corner on the other side. Maybe I will put a little bit of it down. You know what? I'm going to take this shade up here, Cor-de-rosa. It's a little bit pink. I'm going to take some of that and put that on the inner corner. And then maybe I'll bring Hybrid onto the lid. I know this is a little different from what we did on the other side, but kind of following along the same principles. So this is not anywhere near as light as Veranda. Veranda was basically my skin tone. Ooh. See, this is something that I do sometimes where I misjudge how deep a shadow is going to be. And I end up going a little too deep on that inner corner. But usually it happens with shimmer shadows, because I have a little bit of a hard time determining just how deep a shimmer shadow might look on the inner corner. I'm taking Hybrid over the lid. Okay. So, I don't know what to think now, because Cor-de-rosa ended up being much darker on the inner corner than I anticipated, which is kind of strange. I'm thinking maybe no, I just swatched it on my arm. It is kind of dark and peachy, which is crazy because it looks more like gosh, even when I like just put it on my finger, it doesn't even look that dark. it looks more of like a dusty rose, but then when you actually swatch it, it's kind of a dusty rose, but it's got more of like a deep peach thing going on. I'm gonna take some of Veranda, which was the lightest shade we used in the first look, and I'm actually gonna just put a little on my inner corner here to just brighten up, because Cor-de-rosa is deep, or at least deep for the outer corner. See, it's not unusual to struggle with perceiving depth if you're not swatching things. I do usually swatch things that I'm not sure about, just to make sure. But prime example, some things look deeper in the pan than they really are. Some things look lighter in the pan than they really are. Let's do the shimmers though. I think I'm gonna use Dark Night, this purple shade here, on my lid on this more colorful eye, because this is, I think, the best shimmer for this eye. And going with the same principles as before, focusing on the center of the lid, not taking it too far out, but you can bring it a little bit more in. Like if I go like this, that's fine, because we want the inner part of the lid to be brighter than the outer part, but we don't want to eat up that depth. So we take this mid-tone shimmer and we just use it to emphasize the center lid. Definitely trying to pack on more shimmer on the center and then blending out. That's generally how I approach that sort of a thing. This is a bit of a satiny shade. I mean, I guess neither of these shimmers are like super impactful and sparkly, but I feel like this one's very satin looking. So we're not necessarily getting that full-blown impact. Let me see, I'm gonna swatch High Society. This is kind of more of like a red. It's this one here. I might take just a little bit of High Society on my finger and tap it on the center lid here, because I think it's got more sheen. I think it will pop just a little more on the center lid. Yeah, I think that makes a difference. I'm gonna go back in with, did I ever say the name of this one? Belle of the Ball? I can't remember saying the names of some of these shadows, but I definitely used this one in the first look. Oh, let's make sure this brush is actually clean. So we're taking Belle of the Ball on the inner corner on this eye, just like we did on the other one, because this is the brightest, lightest shimmer in the palette, and that's what we want on the inner corner. Ooh, so shiny. Oh, it's so much more shiny on this side than it was on the other side. I'm gonna build this up a little more over here. There we go. Maybe I just hadn't disrupted it enough before. Wasn't getting enough of that shimmer. Okay. I mean, it still looks more shiny on the left eye, but whatever. Now on the lower lash line, sticking to the principles that we stuck with before, Shakespeare is gonna go on the outer part here, and then I think we're gonna go in with Damask. I think, is Damask gonna be too much for the lower lash line? I'm always very like careful about how deep I go with the lower lash line. That's why, like with this color, I'm really focusing it just on the outermost part of the lower lash line. Okay, so I think we'll go in with Damask. Hopefully it won't make me look psycho. Oh, I don't know. Is it making me look psycho? And then I'm gonna take Hybrid, which is the one we use to kind of blend out up here. And I'm gonna bring that right here, swiping it outwards to blend it in with the mask. Ooh, got some in my eye. Okay, and now that this eye is done, I want you to observe in the pans the different depths. This is our deepest shadow. Then this one was our more mid-tone shadow. This one was almost the lightest shade. Not quite. We did end up using this one a little bit, but this is the one that we used to kind of blend things out. And, you know, deeper sort of a shimmer shade, super light shimmer shade. I did use this to add some dimension and give that pop of shine on the center lid, because this one was not quite cutting it. We could have also probably taken our finger and tapped this one on to kind of amplify. I'm actually wondering if this eye would benefit from taking my finger into the gold shade Sun Sprite. I'm not saying these names, I know I'm not. And just tapping it, because using your finger or even setting spray can make something pop so much more. That really made it pop. That's really lovely. Just gently tapping it more in there. Very nice. Okay, so I just finished up the look with mascara. It felt like I needed it because this is kind of a smoky, blown out look. It's a little dramatic, right? But I wanted to make it dramatic so that you could really see how I kind of create this shape. You know, we all know that this angle here kind of creates a more flattering eye shape, right? It kind of lifts the eyes. But I think that even more important than the shape, well, maybe not more important, but equally important to the shape, is the amount of depth and where you place it. Oh, I also went in with my Natasha Denona Lila palette, and I took some of this shade up top called Cyclone. This one here, it's basically the same thing as the one in Cor-de-rosa. It's like, it shifts from like a red to like a magenta, fuchsia, whatever, to, you can't get it on camera, but like a copper sort of a shade, which is basically the same as the one that I tried to use from this one here. I mean, on camera, this one looks more copper, but basically I use my finger and I put that on this lid because I felt like it needed that extra shine. This shadow is much more impactful, and I just felt like the look needed that. I feel like that impact is important for creating dimension and establishing the shape that you want. Maybe that's just me, but I don't like when my shimmers kind of fall a little bit flat. Hopefully I have given you, you know, the information that you needed in a way that makes sense. Hopefully I have educated you on how to create a flattering eye shape using depth, keeping the depth on the outer part of the eye and keeping the inner part of the eye extremely light, or in the case of this eye, lighter than the rest of it. And this kind of creates this sort of almond shape to the eyes. Would you consider it an almond shape? I don't know. But it kind of elongates the eyes, brings them up, and I personally think that it's beautiful. I guess I will briefly tell you what else is on my face. I'm using my One Size foundation, my Huda Faux Filter concealer, One Size bronzer. I also used the contour from that palette in my eyebrows just to kind of darken them. I used my Kaleidos blush. This is like a corally blush. Oh, these don't say the shades on them, and I left the packaging in the bathroom, but it's the corally one from Kaleidos. And then I went over that with Comet from the low light highlighter palette from Unearthly. I did use some beautiful ColourPop products on my lips. The liner is Bad Habit, beautiful, gorgeous. And then the lippy stick is, oh, Songbird. It's on the bottom, not the side. So these beautiful, I think this is gorgeous. I love the way the lips look. And with this eye, oh baby. Oh wait, still oh baby. I also primed my eyes with my Sigma eye base. I can't stress enough how important an eye base is. It makes the colors really show up. It makes them, a good eye base like this one will make them easier to blend together without becoming muddy. And I can't stress enough how important a really good eye base is. So, and I would definitely recommend the Sigma eye bases. Be a little bit sparing with them, because if you have really hooded eyes, or really oily eyes like I do, putting a lot can result in creasing a little bit faster. But if you are sparing with it, it makes the shadows last a really long time and it makes them pop, and it's beautiful. So anyway, that's the video. I have my doubts. I have my doubts about how well I explained things. I hope that I did a good job. I hope that you understand what I mean when I say, you know, we're exploring depth and how it is important for creating a flattering eye shape. I hope that you think that this is flattering. Do you think this is flattering? Even if you didn't understand what I was trying to say, hopefully you at least enjoyed. If you're new here, I do post every Sunday and every Wednesday, so I will be seeing you guys again on Wednesday. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great week. See you soon. Peace.